Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Negotiations between the federal government of Nigeria and organized labor are going on in spite of substantial difference in positions regarding the consequential adjustment of the national minimum wage and the non-implementation of the new national minimum wage across board. But many Nigerians will have heaved a huge sigh of relief when the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress yesterday decided against proceeding with a plan to embark on a nationwide strike. For a conversation around the current state of affairs, we're now being joined from our Abuja studio by Issa Aremu, trade union activist, labor leader, and member of the National Working Committee of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Issa Aremu is also the General Secretary of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria, as well as the Vice President of Industrial Global Union. Issa Aremu, welcome to the morning show once again.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Leila Tundu and my very good friend, Dr. Ruben Abati.
Yes, morning, comrade. Good to have you on the morning show another time. Quickly, what do you think is likely to be the eventual outcome of the ongoing negotiation between the federal government team and organized labor over the consequential adjustment of the minimum wage for levels 7 to 17? The federal government has made some concessions. Yesterday, we understand that the federal government made further concessions in terms of the percentages. The meeting will reconvene again today. What do you think will happen? What is the thinking, among labor leaders about what the government has proposed? Because it looks like the federal government has tried quite a bit to shift position.
Well, thank you so much, Ruben. I think it wouldn't be appropriate for us to to preempt what will be the real actual outcomes in terms of the percentages, because don't forget, negotiation still continues. We had to adjourn very late yesterday, and the meeting continues today. But what I can assure you is that there will be a wise outcome, there will be a win-win outcome, because that's the whole spirit of collective bargaining and social dialogue. Don't forget that we have been in this business for quite some time now. April 19, exactly, President Mohamed Buhari signed into law the new minimum wage, which brought the minimum wage to 30,000 from 18,000 that was subsisting then. And that took us almost about 18 months of protracted negotiation. We had the tripartite committee made up of federal government, state governors, organized private sector businesses, and of course organized labor represented by Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. So I think what is significant is that we got the new minimum wage through the process of collective bargaining. So implementing it, we also passed through that process. But I have no doubt in my mind that we're almost getting close to an agreement. And in terms of the fundamentals, don't forget that the new minimum wage is a reality now. It's an act of parliament. And this is the 5th minimum wage, that Nigeria will be signing. We started in 1981. So we've gone through this process before, and I don't think this will be different. But what we're looking at, which is exactly what you said, is the consequential adjustment arising from raising the pay of those who are below. Don't forget that the principle of minimum wage really is for those who are really at the bottom level of the compensation structure. Of course, as you raise up those who are below, you also know that you need to address the issue of equity, the issue of fairness, the issue of seniority for those who are 7 to 14, 14 to 17, and in that order, 10 to 17. So you know that it has implication for those who are there. So you need to also think of relativity, you need to talk of fairness, And those are the details we are looking at with respect to public sector unions. And there was robust discussion yesterday, just as we've had before in the past few months. The meeting is also well attended. You have the Honorable Minister of Labour, Minister Ngige, as well as Mr. Festus Keyamo. You have the head of service, of course. You have organized labor well represented there. So I have no doubt in my mind that I think it would be nice not to preempt what will be the details. You know, as they say, godliness is in the details. In this case, it's not devil in the details.
So Dr. Ngige said that the meeting was adjourned so that certain committees could complete their assignments. Do you know what those assignments are or what they could be? And will they be completed by the time you reconvene this evening at 7 p.m.? I also want your take on the way things have been done so far. As you said, these negotiations have been happening periodically since the 80s, where you have to negotiate a new minimum wage. But do you think that going forward, while negotiating the minimum wage, the consequential adjustment should also be agreed upon during the tripartite committees? Because having spent 18 months to agree on the minimum wage, you're now back at the drawing board.
Yeah, again, I think with the benefit of insight, I mean, just as you said, I think we need to be a bit more proactive, you know, for the future. Because some of these details, at least the basic principle guiding the details, ought to have been, you know, well thought out. But you also know that, you know, the nationwide minimum wage is supposed to be, you know, negotiated at national level, but the other details at sectoral level ought to be taken up, you know, by respective unions. I'm from private sector. I mean, the discussion going on now fundamentally doesn't touch on those who are in private sector because they have their own negotiating machinery. But we can't deny today that in the public service, most workers are concentrated here. You know, the core civil servants, so whatever impacts on them has a lot of implication for other sectors. So, but I agree with you. Don't forget, I'm also a member of the National Wages and Salary Commission. I'm representing labor there. And it will have made more sense that while we are discussing at the tripartite level, maybe some basic guidelines will have been put in place, especially in terms of the principle, what will guide the consequential adjustment? Will it be a flat rate? Will it be in terms of percentages? If you calculate from 18,000 to 30,000, that comes to close about 60% or so, over 60%. Will that be done across the board? And if you do it across the board without ensure equity, because you want to raise those who are below, then at the same time you push those who are above at the same pace. I mean, how equitable would that be? So what will be the percentage if you want to talk of equity? Or will it be flat rate? Because at the end of the day, whether flat rate or percentages, what a working man and woman is looking for is the money in his or her pocket. Again, those are the details I agree with you that maybe we ought to have said. But so far, I think there has been robust discussion. Everybody is also looking at what is available within the budget. Don't forget that the budget is already, 2019 budget. It has been appropriate. I mean, it has become a law. There's a fixed amount the federal government put into it. I think about 158 or 168 billion naira. Can we really go above that? And if we have to go, how do you have extra budget to meet up the challenges? Again, what would be the appropriation for next year in a way that the payment of the new minimum wage will be sustainable? But let me also put it this way, that for those who are between level 1 and 6 or 7, I mean, that's already settled. I mean, federal employees are already enjoying that, even though there are not many in good number. And I think what is going on at the federal level is expected to also go on at the state level. National minimum wage is national, you know, and I expect governors to also be proactive, you know, just like Minister Ngige said yesterday, to set the ball rolling, because at the end of the day, workers are spread across the federation. So through collective bargaining, social dialogue, we may avert crisis or strike at the national level. But that can't be guaranteed at the state levels if they don't follow due process in ensuring that we have a good collective agreement on the consequential adjustment.
And that's very acceptable and fair enough. But do you also think, sir, that that may be a part of the problem? Maybe the problem may even be just having a national minimum wage. Maybe this is something that should have started at state level to begin with, seeing as the cost of living does vary across different states. And I'm talking about carrying out a proper power purchasing analysis to really understand how we could have gone about implementing new minimum wages in a way where we wouldn't have had to wait for 18 months for negotiations to still be going on. What is your take on that? Do you think that that may be the problem, that we've sent all the power back up to the top again?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, let's get it right. Minimum wage is national, supposed to be national. I'm not really hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, it's better now, yeah.
Okay, no, I said that, do you think that we just didn't get it right from the very beginning by focusing on a national minimum wage? Should we have looked at a different model and ensured that states had state minimum wages that varied based on the cost of living in different states? And this would have been carried out through a proper power purchasing analysis to really see what civil servants across states really need in order to survive. Do you think that that would have been easier for us to implement? Is the problem that we sent all the power to the top again?
No, I think we have already crossed that bridge. Minimum wage everywhere in the world is national. I mean, we have a Federal Republic of Nigeria. The whole principle of minimum wage is that there should be minimum standard in the world of work.
But you also have state minimum wages as well.
No, you can't. I mean, states are at liberty to pay more if they want to, but there should be some minimum standard. There should be minimum hours of work for every worker. I mean, that has been agreed upon. You will only work for 8 hours. If you work more than 8 hours, you are entitled to be paid overtime. You know, it's not compulsory that you work more than 8 hours. But if you do so, you'll be compensated for under overtime. There should be minimum number of days workers are entitled to go on leave. There should be minimum pay, you know, for a worker, below which any worker...
Just hold your thoughts for a minute. We do have to go on a quick commercial break. As soon as we're back, we'll definitely continue with this conversation. Welcome back to the morning show here on Horizon News. Still with us in our Abuja studios is Comrade Issa Aremu, the trade union activist, labor leader and member of the National Workers Committee of Nigeria's Labour Congress. Welcome back to the program, sir. Before we went on a break, you were making a point with regard to state minimum wages versus national minimum wage.
Yeah, so what I'm saying here is that if you check our constitution, labor is on the exclusive list. You know, just like capital, you know, land. Those are critical factors of production. You know, they are all on the exclusive list of the Federation for obvious reason, because labor creates wealth, and you have to handle labor, you know, critically, because if you don't do so, I mean, you can see the kind of apprehension that the nation is already having, because labor threatens to go on strike. You know, you can imagine if we have to deregulate this kind of crisis, you know, across the 36 of the Federation is going to manage that. So there should be some minimum standard, you know, below which any worker cannot fall. Minimum health and safety standard, minimum hours of work, minimum wage, minimum pension. Of course, minimum doesn't mean states are also at liberty for them to pay more, but that below that level, they shouldn't fall in. And don't forget, we are not just talking of states, we are talking of private sector employers, some of them who are slave traders, you know, I mean, they prefer to work, to people for work for them without paying. So we need to make sure that government puts in place minimum standard below which a worker will not be treated. So that's the whole idea of minimum wage. And I think, as I've said so before, this is the 5th minimum wage that were put in place, you know, and some states are definitely at liberty, you know, to go beyond that minimum. As I'm talking, I mean, Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, you know, says so, and I read him, and I want to commend him to say that they will even pay more than 30,000. Some private employers also pay more than 30,000 as minimum wage. But the bottom line is that no worker, should earn less than that. Otherwise, anything below that leads to starvation. Even at 30,000, that it's still survival wage. I mean, it's really nothing for a worker, a wife, with 4 children. Is this just a process of negotiation in which workers are sacrificing? So what I'm saying here is that I don't think there is any consensual problem about that. What is important is that once we have a minimum, states should implement. Governor Malam El-Rufai of Kaduna has started implementing, and all state governors should be able to do that. I know the previous negotiation, many states also did that. Plateau, don't even pay under Comrade Adams Oshomole, pay more than the national minimum. So that's the whole idea. And on a last note, let me put it this way. Good wages for your worker is smart economics, for Nigeria economy.
Well,
because worker salaries are meant to buy basic goods and services, which is good for economic recovery. So, and if you want to ensure discipline, pay workers very well. If you want productivity, also pay them very well. And 30,000 minimum wage is certainly not anything, yeah.
Well, it's good that you refer to the state governments and also, the private sector. With regard to the states, you've given a number of examples. And also in Ekiti State, Governor Fayemi has said that from October, the state will implement. But there is an issue there in Ekiti State with labor in Ekiti State saying that they want a consequential adjustment of 45%. And, if the federal government ends up paying lower than that, will it be fair to demand a 45% adjustment in a state? Or do you think, this consequential adjustment politics could become an issue, in many states of the Federation? That's one. The second thing, you talked about the private sector.
Okay.
You talked about the private sector, and you said you expect that the private sector will also negotiate and the private sector has a mechanism in place. Are you really optimistic about the private sector, considering the fact that, many private companies can easily resort to retrenchment, casualization, and all of that, because, they could claim that there is unemployment in the country, and by creating jobs, they are even trying to help to protect the economy and provide opportunities. What will Labour do in such a circumstance?
Well, I think the first leg of your question with this, with the state government, and in the case of Ekiti, with respect to consequential adjustment. Well, I think the principle is that first the minimum wage, that's the one that is nationwide. Now, for the consequential adjustment, those are open to discussions and negotiation, just like public sector unions are discussing at their own level, based on availability of resources on the part of the federal government, based on the needs of the workers, based on seniority, based on the salary structures. I just learned extensively about that. There are close almost about 43 different kind of classification of different salary structure in the public sectors. So we need to group them into different categories for us to get this negotiation on at the federal level. I'm very sure the same thing has to be done at the state level. So it doesn't follow that what is applicable at the federal in terms of incremental, consequential adjustment will be applicable to at the state level. They are flexible over that one to discuss. Of course, proposal is one thing, the demand is one thing. What you get, it has to be outcome of negotiation. So if in the Ekiti, workers in their wisdom, think the state can afford 45%, they've tabled on they put it on the table, and I know Governor Fayemi is also very progressive. Until recent time, he himself used to live on minimum wage like us. Now he's in the executive, so you should know the importance of the workers. I've no doubt in my mind that through process of negotiation, they will get a wise outcome. Now, for the private sector, I also want to put it this way. This is an act of parliament, it's law. It also has provision for sanctions. Any employer that doesn't pay is liable to be prosecuted, to pay some fines. So it's already settled. And I don't think it's minimum wage versus employment, no. Minimum wage employment, they are not mutually exclusive. We've analyzed all those ones in the past 2 years when we're negotiating to look at what is the minimum pay that will guarantee jobs, that will not lead to running down the enterprises of companies, that will not lead to retrenchment. So we've calculated that before we arrive at this. I don't forget, it's a lot of sacrifice. So I don't think it will be acceptable for anybody to say because you are paying no wage, you are going to do retrenchment. No. And I also want to let you know, many private sector employers, as I've told you, some are above this. Those who are not, some have negotiated. As depressed as my sector is, we've negotiated it to make sure that no worker hand below 30,000. You know, all what the private sector, enlightening employers in private sector will do is that for every work, there should be commensurate, what do you call it, productivity or performance. So they link remuneration, they link remuneration with productivity pay. You know, and I think the same thing must apply in the public sector. I also want to say that even as organized labor, we must champion the cause of productivity because once there is minimum pay, there should be minimum productivity. Otherwise, our job will not be sustainable and guaranteed. So I think what I want to say here is that the earlier we get this thing behind us, but I want to say on the last note that the kind of mechanism we have in private sector in which there are periodic wage reviews, you know, you don't need to wait for 5-year cycle of minimum wage in many private sector because we review wages every 2 years. The same thing should apply in the public sector.
Indeed, Comrade,
in the public sector that we don't have that kind of arrangement.
As we start rounding up this conversation, I have to quickly ask you, what are your thoughts on the sort of piecemeal approach that's been taken by state governors? We had Governor El Rufai of Kaduna being the first governor to start paying minimum wage in September, followed by Kebbi State. As Dr. Abati just said, Ekiti has announced that they will start in October. Lagos has announced that they are even going to pay above 30,000 naira, but it's radio silence from the others. I want you to address that very quickly, and also the fact that the NLC chapter of Delta State has shut down schools and offices. Have you, the NWC of the NLC, reached out to them in any way?
Well, on the Delta, I mean, that tells you the kind of the moderating role that the NLC has been playing. I mean, just as you were saying, if you have allowed each state to do the negotiation, that tells you the kind of crisis we have in our hand. But I think what has happened in Delta should give the signal that all state governors have to wake up because workers are eager to get this pay, rightly so, because we've waited for almost 5 years, and it's time for us to get the money paid. But I also want to warn the state governors who are going to be procrastinating and say there's no way they can escape from paying this money because there will be arrears. So the more you delay, the more you are going to pay more higher wage bills. But very smart, proactive governors like that of Lagos, the one you've cited, Kaduna, know very well that the earlier they pay now, the less they reduce their burden. Because this is a law and it's effective from April, and they must pay.
It's time now for a short break. Thank you very much, Comrade Issa Aremu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.